went from the highest of the highs shortly thereafter to a pretty significant low. So take us through when you learned that the pictures that you took, talk to us a little bit about the pictures that you took that caused the controversy around your losing the title.
When did I learn? I learned on July 13th. It was a Friday the 13th, and I got a phone call from I'd done an interview with the New York Post about Geraldine Ferrara. At the time, she was the first, she was running for vice president, and my thoughts on her. And did the interview, and he said, by the way, I heard from a very reliable source at the end of the interview that you're going to be featured in Penthouse magazine in September. Is it true? I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, well, I heard from very reliable sources. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. So, and then I called my lawyer and I said, I don't know what's going down, but you need to do some investigation. And my parents were, I was there for the New York State pageant. My parents were in, and we were on the phone and trying to figure all this stuff out. And then I told my parents, I don't know what's going on, but this is what happened, and obviously something happened, and there are pictures that are coming out, and my parents were there for me, and that's exactly what they didn't cast judgment. They didn't say, "What a loser!" They said, "Okay, well, we love you, and we'll get through this," and that's what you need. I just turned 21,
wow.
And had a press conference. And basically, said, obviously, if you guys don't want me to continue, then I'm going to resign, and resigned about a week later. And they crowned Suzette Charles, who was the first runner-up, who is another black woman, and she finished out the last month, and then moved back home, and tried to start my career, which I didn't want to go back to school. I had a lot of things that were lined up that I had been able to do while I was Miss America, and it was time to do what I wanted to do. And I got back to the theater. I did an off-Broadway show almost immediately because that's what I knew, that's what I loved, and that's what I knew I could excel at.
So in the moments, I take it that was a low.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And many people have lows in life. We have our highs and we have our lows, and over a span of about a year, you experience both. I'm interested in sharing what you learned in the lows, or what advice you might give to other people when they experience such lows, as it relates
the saving grace was that I knew that, and I guess it could be blind optimism, I knew that once the dust would settle, I get a chance to prove who I was. And I don't know whether it's sheer determination, but again, we talked about skill set. I knew what I was good at. And it would be a matter of time. It might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, and it ended up taking 10 years. In 1994, I starred on Broadway in Kiss the Spider-Woman and got rave reviews, and I said, this is what I do, and this is what I've been doing, and this is what I knew I could do. But it took time, and it took me to become a recording artist when I wasn't being cast in serious roles, and a whole bunch of strategizing and luck to get to the piece where I think I truly could shine in doing what I really loved. But so you have to think, okay, just because people are making assumptions, you know who you really are, and you have to feel strong in that. And also, I had a strong support system. My family was there for me. They didn't cast judgment. They were there to support me. And friends, and good friends, and a community that knew who I was and knew that eventually people would know who I am.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And
it's hard.
It's
definitely hard. And I think whether there's any kind of struggle, whether it's divorce, whether it's death, whether it's, it's all a death of something.
Right.
Whatever it is, whether it's divorce, it's a death of a dream. Exactly.
Of expectations.
Absolutely. And how you deal with that, and not to get mired down by it, to move through it.
Right.
Don't try to not feel it, but then move through it.
Move through it.
Yeah.
And what helped propel you through it was that support and that self-confidence.
So yeah. And the determination. I mean, I've said many times, success is the best revenge, because my whole career is like, oh, I didn't know she could do that. Every time. And I used to be very defensive about it, and now I just think it's funny. Every time I do something, I didn't know she could do that. Yeah, and it's
You say, I knew. Right. Just
exactly.
watch me. How you like me now.
Right.
That's
Exactly,
good. It's
yeah.
something you said earlier about knowing who you are. What's the process? I mean, many adults still don't know who they are. Like, how do you go about discovering you and owning it?
Well, I think it takes time and not being afraid to listen to what you really want and act on it. And especially for women saying no. I mean, we're always constantly, we need you to do this, you have to do that. And a lot of times, no, you don't have to.
You don't.
It's a choice. You can choose to, but you don't have to.
You don't.
Yeah.
I'm fond of saying that no is a complete sentence.
Exactly.
It is.
Not
Yeah.
no, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, huh?
No.
Right.
Wow, that's good.
It was 1984, and I was eager to prove myself. I had gotten, actually, Mike Nichols, who just recently passed, contacted me to go into My One and Only, which was a George Gershwin musical review that Tommy Tune was starring in with Twiggy. And Twiggy was leaving, and they wanted me to replace, he called me to replace Twiggy. And I met with Tommy, learned the choreography, did the audition at the theater, and Lee Gershwin, who was Ira Gershwin's widow, was the head of the estate and one of the executive producers. And so did the audition, nailed it, and I got a call saying that I didn't get the part. And I ran into Mike Nichols at the opening of West Side Story a couple of years ago, and he was sitting right behind me, and I said, oh my God, great to see you, haven't seen you in years, how's everything? And he said, oh, do you remember that story with My One and Only? I said, oh yeah, I do. He said, I said, oh yeah, tell me what happened again. He said, oh, well, you finished, you did a great job, you finished your audition. I went down backstage, and by the time I got down to the bottom of the stairs, the phone rings, which is the phone next to the stairway at the backstage, and it was Lee Gershwin. And before he went down, he said, isn't she terrific? And she nodded, and then he got downstairs, and he picked up the phone and said, it's Lee. He said, okay. He said, over my dead body, will that whore be in my show?
Oh my God.
So that was,
that's
was the type
horrible.
of, well, but that's also the type of obstacle I had to face at that time.
Looking back on your life, is there anything that you would change?
You know, you get the cards that you're dealt, and you make the decisions that you do, and it all brings you to where you are now. And if I had made different decisions, I wouldn't have met my husband, I wouldn't have had 3 kids with him, and I wouldn't have had Sasha with another husband, and had I, you know, had the Cyrano de Bergerac production not been canceled, I wouldn't have gone out for Miss America and changed my life at age 20. So the choices I made were made by me, and they brought me to where I am now. So no, I think I wouldn't change a thing.